Hello guys, with this one you get the best value for the amount of the wheel as it weighs around 2.5 kilos and feels solid and sturdy. And in short, the Moza TSW is a must-have for sim trackers, and that's why. First of all, it's a 40 cm wheel in diameter and it's almost like a real truck steering wheel, which is about 45 cm. Not ideal but pretty close, depends on the manufacturer of the real wheel. The rim itself has a good build quality, no flexes or squeaks. Leather feels pretty good and tactile, very nice feeling. Obviously it's not the real leather, but still very nice. However, the plastic on the wheel feels pretty cheap. Compared to the KS wheel I own, this one feels sturdy and having a better build quality. You can watch a review for my KS wheel, link I will have in the description. This wheel also weighs more due to its larger size and the fact that for tracking there is no need to compromise between durability and weight. Unlike for racing where a lightweight wheel is important, weight isn't as much of a concern here, unless of course you plan to use it for track racing. It's quite a unique product on the market and no competitors currently offer anything like it. This makes the Moza ecosystem looks more and more attractive nowadays. Moza is a major provider of accessories for sim racers, offering a wide variety of products within a single ecosystem, which is awesome. With just one base you can easily plug and play with different wheels. Sounds like an advertisement, but unfortunately no, they haven't paid me anything. However, it's not as simple as it sounds in this case, and I will show why a bit later. But now, to the wheel itself. Buttons do not provide any expensive feeling, they are pretty cheap, but haven't spotted any malfunction yet. Rotary buttons are a bit tough, so you won't accidentally trigger them. Having RPM on a track wheel is pretty odd, but from the other side it's an essential part nowadays for the sim wheels. I'm not a fan of putting stickers on the steering wheel, and actually don't like that they come on the box, as they look pretty cheap and will impair the steering wheel's overall feel. Original Buttons engraving on the wheel feels way more better, but having buttons engraving by default like wipers and flashlights, cruise control are pretty odd either, as together with this wheel most likely you will buy the multifunctional Stalks that will take care of this functionality. I would say those two are a bundled must-have for the sim trucks, because of the massive immersion they provide together. So it would be better to have some other functions labeled on the engraving rather than those you can easily replace with the multifunctional Stalks. Directional pad classic Moza layout with no fixed directions, you can swipe them in a radial manner. However, this isn't as critical as it would be in a racing scenario where you need to navigate menus under the pressure and avoid accidentally selecting the wrong pit strategy. You would expect this huge button to be pressable to confirm selection just like the OK button, but unfortunately it isn't. They can spin, but again without any action, so we have two directional pad functions only. And no pedal shifter or any butter on the back side of the wheel. And of course RJ45 connection port for the third-party wheelbases. If you are playing on a table, there is a proper table clamp for the TSW wheel for an extra 55 euro. Ain't cheap at all, but that's the only option in your case to have a proper sitting position. If you are playing on a table with the clamp, ensure you have enough space for your legs and behind you, as mounting this wheel properly on the table might be a bit of a struggle. By the way, if you are looking for TSW wheel or any other sim racing gear in Europe, I can suggest you to visit SimXPro store, as I have an extra 3% discount promo code in the video description. This would be the base position from where you could start if you're gonna use a table clamp. As you can see, the clamp is its lower position and this is the maximum wheel angle you can achieve from this sitting position. Overall it's not bad, but it might not be ideal still, as for me the steering wheel still feels a bit too high. Also pay attention to how far I am sitting from the desk. My back is right up into my sim rig and I can lean more. And I'm using a small extender that comes with the multifunctional Stalks to fit in between the base and the wheel. We can fix it by moving down forward the wheelbase. There are 3 mounting holes on the table clamp, now I'm having it in the middle, but if you move it down or up, you end up in using only 2 holes out of 4. I don't recommend every last one, as in this case base will have almost no support, but it's still doable, and there will be only one issue with it, but we will cover it later. Now that's another story, it feels more natural and comfortable. The steering wheel is closer to the table, so more space on the back, and now it's even lower, so you can just chill and wave through the traffic on your truck. Even on the two balls it's pretty stiff. I would not recommend using it like this for sim racing, but for pretty calm feedback when you're trucking, that's fine. But what if you want to have an even bigger angle of the steering wheel? Let's see what we can do. And voila! If you put the base upside down, you can have an extreme angle and become a bus driver rather than a truck driver. But now the steering wheel is a bit too high for me, so I need to invent some sort of different mounting options to lower it down a little bit. Also, you now have a wheelbase between your legs that you might hit, and you need to be extra cautious with the wires that come from its back, and you are risking damaging the socket with a careless movement of your legs. If you are not using the multi-stalks, you can lower the wheel using the very last holes in the mount. I don't know how Moza managed to screw up so badly with the Stalks design, but they stick out more and you just can't mount them if the base is too deep on its mounting plane. And they are upside down, by the way, but if you will use it properly, they will stick out even more. This gap, by the way, indeed is crucial, because if you will try to fit it inside like this, you will get problems with your steering shaft hitting the stalks because of this extra part that turns off your turn-in signals. Extension of stalks also ain't an option. In this case you will hit them with your fingers while driving. On maximum extension they are already too close, and with active steering you can hit them easily with your fingers, so I would say that's the maximum how you can raise them. And of course consider your entire table config stiffness. I have a table with only two supporting legs, as it has a lifting mechanism and it's pretty shaky. And this wobble also transitions on the monitor. So I would say there is no option for me to play on such a table which flexes so easy. If you have a sim rig, there's plenty of options how you can mount it and adjust the alignment at your taste. But in my case there's another problem. I got used to my racing sitting position. TSW is pretty big itself and covers part of the screen, but in case I want to play with TSW and multi-stalks, I have to use an extender that makes the TSW even closer to me. So this is my common racing position. I feel pretty comfortable. Now let's try the TSW wheel. So for the big and round TSW wheel, such an angle feels very uncomfortable and unusual. However, without the extension and multi-stalks, it's kinda still fine and usable. Applying the multi-stalks extender. Here is what it looks like if I mount this wheel without changing anything to my racing position. The TSW wheel itself is quite large, and with my racing wheel base angle it doesn't work properly. It sits too close to me at an awkward wheel angle, so it's almost impossible to drive and enjoy it, you know? So in order to play with it, I am forced to reconfigure my entire setup to fit TSW for at least a somewhat usable position. It is not still full immersive tracking position, as for this one I'll have to rework my entire rig config, but at least playable. And now I'm feeling myself back in the days when you had to put the wheel on the desk and then remove it. So you had to do something before you actually can use it, forcing you to think twice if you definitely want to play now and do this. You know, this laziness crash point most of us will fail to pass at some point and stop playing with the wheel. But now for me it's even more complex to align it properly and then turn everything back for the racing config, as the sim rig isn't designed for such a quick changes. If you are not just a sim tracker but also a sim racer, consider how you are going to handle this situation with your rig. It could become a real blocker at some point. So this is how it looks after the readjustment. As I said, it's not ideal tracking position, but at least it's somehow playable, and now it's more confident for me to walk with the steering wheel. Forgot to mention that on my rig I have exactly the same problem that I had with the table clamps. I have a shelf type wheelbase mounting plate, and historically the wheelbase is mounted at its farthest point. As a result, multi-stalks can't fit properly as their lower part exceeds the wheelbase by a lot, so I had to add an extra nut at the spacer for its mounting. I don't want to move the base closer as it would need to realign my sitting position. I'm fine with the distance toward the wheel and I don't want it to change, so as a result multi-stalks are pretty close to the wheel rim at its maximum comfortable distance, I would say. A few millimeters more and I would hit it with my fingers. The wheel, as I said, is heavy and nice to feel, but as a drawback, weaker wheelbases might suffer transitioning force feedback. So if you have something lower than R9, your force feedback effect might be compromised. However, from Euro and American Truck Simulator, simple R5 which is used in a bundle could be enough. But if you aim for some racing experience, better to get something more powerful right away. As a result, I do not recommend for racing because of weight and big wheel lever. But if you have Moza R12 or higher, it might be enough to handle with this wheel, as the wheel is 40 cm in diameter, which is about 16 inches, and as I know, some of NASCAR cars can use such a wheel diameter, so it can be usable for authentic NASCAR gameplay. I tried it myself in a short practice session. I am not a NASCAR expert, but it felt pretty good. I used the R12 and I was able to feel the feedback quite well. Overall, it's definitely better than using an F1 style wheel, so I might give it a proper go and try it in a super speedway series. As a conclusion, if you are more of a sim tracker than a sim racer, I definitely recommend this wheel. It feels solid and sturdy. And of course it adds a lot of immersion. Just make sure to think about how you'll mount this setup, especially if you often switch between sim racing and tracking. Happy hauling and bye bye!